And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Emily Niebuhr. This is the marine portion of our broadcast. You are watching Alaska weather. It's July 21st, 2023. So let's take a look at our frontal systems and low pressure systems that are going to be impacting the marine environment over the next several days. This is where the systems are currently. We have 1,002 millibar low in the Bering Sea. And then we also have a low pressure system fairly weak in the southern part of the Gulf of Alaska. And then we have a high pressure system lingering off the Panhandle. Saturday, that high pressure system is going to drift towards Kodiak Island. And then we also have that low pressure system. Its front is fairly stagnant, and the low is going to be moving a little bit to the west, but still remaining at about the same intensity and strengthening slightly, actually. So by Sunday, that high pressure continues to dive south and west of Kodiak Island, and that low pressure system, the 996 millibar low, will be drifting a little bit westward in the Bering, with this frontal system impacting the Panhandle region. Here are our sea ice conditions. Much of the Chukchi Sea is starting to erode and have ice-free waters. We're at about 80% concentration along, less than 80% along most of Ukhiavik, with a few patches in the white where it's greater than 80% concentration. But the sea ice continues to erode, and mainly ice-free waters off of Kaktovik. As we go into your marine forecast for this weekend, again, with no strong system in the area, generally calm conditions across much of the Panhandle. We do have 10 to 15 knot winds off along the coast, and winds or waves of about 3 to 4 feet. As you go in sheltered areas in the interior, waves will be 2 to 3 feet with winds 10 to 15 knots. Of course, it could be a little stronger and a little higher waves in channeled areas, so always travel with a little bit of caution. Sunday, we have slightly stronger waves. We're looking at 3 to 4 feet along the Gulf Coast as that very weak front system moves into the Panhandle region. And even in interior areas, we're looking at waves of about 3 feet with winds of about 15 knots. Looking at your North Gulf Coast, similar story that we're looking at the Panhandle. Not much in terms of a strong system nearby, except for that weak high pressure system drifting across the Gulf Coast this weekend. We're generally looking, even outside of sheltered areas, waves are just going to be 2 to 3 feet. And across Cook Inlet, generally 2 to 3 feet as well, with winds of 10 to 15 knots. As we go into your Sunday, we're still seeing waves generally of about 3 feet across much of the area, with 2 feet in Prince William Sound and winds 10 to 15 knots. As we move further west, closer to that frontal system associated with that low in the Bering, we're looking at winds and waves that are a little higher, so waves of about 3 to 4 feet across north and south of the Alaska Peninsula, and winds of about 25 knots near Port Hayden, with a little stronger jet located along the coast. So be aware of that this weekend. There could be this local enhancement. As we go towards your Sunday, that front weakens a little bit. We still have generally waves 3 to 4 feet and winds of about 10 to 20 knots. As we drift further west along the Aleutian chain, you can see slightly stronger, higher waves and winds associated with that system. But generally, we're looking at waves of up to about 7 feet south of the central and eastern Aleutian Islands. And north of the Aleutian Islands, we're looking at waves of 4 to 6 feet. For your Sunday, as that low weakens a little bit, we're looking generally of waves 6 to 5 feet, waves of 3 to 5 feet, but fairly persistent conditions throughout the weekend as that low is fairly stagnant. So as we move up your coast again, you can see along the coast, we're going to have a little bit of an enhanced jet. So again, pretty variable wave and wind conditions as you go into Bristol Bay this weekend. 6 feet near St. Paul and George Island with 20 knot winds. And as we go up to Nome, even in some sheltered areas, we're still looking at waves of about 4 feet and winds of about 20 knots. Sunday, the winds and waves will be a little calmer. We're looking up except for the exception, we'll be seeing waves up to 7 feet near the Pribilof Islands. But generally, as we go towards Nome, we're looking closer to 2 to 3 foot waves with winds of about 15 knots. So we go even further north, generally calm conditions as well. We just have a high pressure system drifting along the North Arctic coast this weekend. So expect winds of about 5 to 10 knots and waves of about 1 to 2 feet. Sunday, we're looking again at waves generally in ice-free waters up to 3 feet off of Prudhoe Bay and off of Ukjavik, and generally 2 feet in Chukchi Sea, and we're looking at about 10 to 15 knot winds.